The first one that we discuss obviously is the what's the cause with shin guard injuries, and fundamentally the main issue that I have found through my years of R&D and research, looking at the game and playing the game myself, is that fundamentally it's movement. You go out and buy a pair of shin guards, and they basically you can get a standard shin guard, which is something that you would slip in to a sleeve, or you would just slip into the back of your socks, or you would buy a one-piece unit that has a protection around the ankle area as well, and that slip in with a Velcro strap on the back of that. And the issue is, like I said, during match play, I'm sure yourself and myself and many people who's played the game, there's tend to be movements with the shin guards while you're playing the game, or most importantly, when someone tackles you, the shin guards will shift and move, right? And they either go sideways, up and down, around to the back of your shin guards, and then you spend 5 minutes generally in the course of the game, maybe not as many as 5 minutes, but you're fiddling around, and when you're doing that, you lose concentration, and then it's having to come up again and get back into the game. So that's one of the main issues that I find with current shin guards. Also, the fact is, you may buy a pair of shin guards that may be loose. You don't know that. Some people go out and buy a small shin guard that doesn't cover the required area, and you've got sometimes people will buy a bigger shin guards, or if it's in the case of grassroots players, the parents will tend to always buy a massive shin guard for the child, and they end up wearing a tree trunk around their leg. So that's part of the reason. So what I've gone is also the fact is that most of the guards nowadays, they're hard shells. And what happens when you put a hard shell product on, or any product out there at the moment, besides being a plastic, made out of plastic, it could be made out of rubber, it could be made out of carbon fiber. The issue with that is that if you do get that really hard hit, you're having a hard surface hitting onto the leg or the shin itself, and the result of that, if the impact is hard enough, you could end up with a fracture or a leg break. And because the products that you wear is a solid point, it creates on the actual impact a transmitted force on that initial hit. That vibration will travel up and down the actual whole of the guard itself, and the result of that, you could end up with multiple impacts with that.
With the shin pads that you see today, in your opinion, do you think a lot of grassroots players go with a brand name and colors rather than safety?
Well, and unfortunately, yes, that is a very big issue. As with most of the big brands, they can afford to look at all the different colorways that they come up with, and they tend to have a selection of maybe about 14 to 15 different colorways, as you would call them, and different designs, and those have all basically done is to capture the purchaser at that level in the shop, right? But the issue is most of these shin guards will end up being purchased purely, as I said, based on the child's preference to what they see and what they like, and none of the consideration of looking at the safety aspect of it is considered at all, right? I mean, here's an example. I mean, this is a standard shin guard that you can buy. It's a hard shell, plastic shell, and it's got a very thin covering of foam on the back of it. And these foams are generally a very low end foam, and it doesn't actually absorb anything. It gives you a slightly soft touch to the skin. But the issue when you wear these, there is always a little gap at the front because they don't actually fit onto the shin properly as you would, and there's generally a little space of maybe about a finger that you can actually put on once you put these things on. And also, as I said earlier on, on hard impact on this, on the plastic shell, if it breaks, the transmitted force will go up and down the actual shield itself, and you'll end up with a multiple fracture. And it's something that we, who's in the game, and the parents should really learn to understand. They need to be educated on that aspect of it. If you're going to go out to get a pair of shin guards, you've got to get a pair of shin guards so that it actually is suitable for your child. It's easy to put on, so he doesn't have to struggle putting it on. And fundamentally, having a pair of shin guards that addresses the issue, especially in grassroots, of sweat retention. And when that happens, 9 times out of 10, the child will end up with a skin condition, and it becomes very irritable. And I've seen many kids who generally wear the one things are fiddling around with them all the time, or if they're wearing a pair of shin guards with the straps around here, they tend to complain that the actual teeth on the Velcro itself actually is rubbing on the side of their leg, and it's a concern. They're not comfortable, right?
Yeah.
So that's one of the main factors in the actual game today.
What's an approximate shelf life of a shin pad?
It's a personal preference. Some people will buy a pair of shin guards and they'll grow with it. In the instance of Jack Grealish, he's still wearing the same shin guards he wore when he was at grassroots level, which were the tiny little shin guards. So there's funny enough, the shelf life with a hard shell could be as long as you want it to be, really, because unless you start getting a chip and a break in it, this can last a very long period of time. But generally, it's when the next colorway comes in, people tend to buy a pair of new shin guards every season. At the beginning of a new season, they start looking at it because this is never cleaned. It starts to stink and smell because of the sweat, and it's chucked away grassroots, even up to senior level. So I would say probably once a season, but they can last longer, right? Okay. Unless obviously, but the problem with hard shells are if you start to see any cracks from any tackles, and if you don't, and you keep wearing those eventually becomes the individual weak points, and then you're putting yourself at risk. So it's always best to check these beforehand to see if there are any cracks on the front surface of the guard themselves. And if you see any, then it's time to go. But in general, like I said, 1 season minimum, not an issue. You could go with 2, but if you're one that likes to follow all the trends and look at the different colors, and mostly that you would get that with the kids. But I must stress though, out of the 14 different varieties and brands that you will get when you go to the big retailers, it will probably end up with 2 or 3 of the actual colorways, which sells more than others. And then what you see most of the time now are the products are generally most of the time are on sale are the ones which are not shifting because the colors does not appeal. That's it. That's basically my take on why injuries happens on the shin guards that are available in the marketplace at the moment.